Joining us now is one of the most accomplished Americans in the history of America. From Pittsburgh, went to IU because it was a top 10 business school and it was the most affordable. This guy's been running businesses since he was 12 years old. Now, he is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You see him on Shark Tank showcasing his business acumen. Our most accomplished guest ever, who is currently rewarding bad behavior because I misquoted him. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Cuban.
What up, big dog? How you doing, man?
I should have wore my Dallas Mavericks sleeveless. I feel kind of upset that I didn't do that. You look amazing.
I just rolled out of bed, man. So that's, it's quarantine time. It's my day off.
Well, I appreciate you joining us and making time for us. You're a legend, obviously. Let's get right to it. Okay, so there's a lot of stories coming out. The reason why you're on this show is because Shaq and Charles Barkley came out and said, hey, let's scrap this last season. There'll be a big asterisk, not worth it. You came out and said, and I was wrong, but you said, let's do it in a safe fashion. It feels as if all systems are go for an optimistic return for this thing, and it sounds like Orlando is going to be the home. What have been the conversations behind the scenes that have put us to this point where the NBA is definitely going to come back?
So first, I got to correct you. That's not why I did the show. I did a badass, dude. I love what.
Yeah! Let's go.
I don't care about what those guys said, but to answer your question, right? I don't know yet. So I'm not on that committee. So I just hear things like everybody do. But the conversations I've had with other owners is that we are getting closer, right? We've just got to get to the point where we have confidence that whatever we do will work. I mean, you're an athlete, man. Imagine, you know how guys think and feel about the whole thing. When you put their health at risk, you put their careers at risk. So we have to be really, really safe. And so we're working on all those angles. But I'm a big fan of the Hotel California approach. You put us in California, you check in, but you never leave until you. And so once we get that in, teams will go there. We'll set it up so it's safe. When the regular season's over, for those aren't in the playoffs, they go home. Then when you lose a playoff round, you go home until we're done.
Hey, and how big is it that LeBron James, Chris Paul, it seems like the stars of the league have said, like, hey, we want to do this, right? In baseball, you got a lot of the star players being like, we can't do this business-wise. This sounds like a bad deal. But in the NBA, a lot of the big stars are like, hey, we want to get back to this. We want to do this. And this would be something unlike ever before seen if it's like a March Madness style tournament. How big of a deal is that the stars of the league are on board?
Our guys are smart, man. They understand business. And see, the difference between the NBA and most other professional sports is our guys are mostly brands. You know them on social media. LeBron's got how many social media followers? Same with Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Luka now, right, for the young stars, KP. They're huge on social media, and that's part of who they are. And so they have a lot stronger connections to fans and businesses and brands. And so they understand the business side of it as well as the athletic side. And that makes it a little bit easier for us than other sports.
You've come out and said on a couple different occasions that you feel like the NBA is the future. Now, granted, the NFL ratings were going down there for a little bit. NBA ratings were going up completely. Do you think it's because your players understand how to market and how to promote themselves, which inevitably promotes the league?
Yeah, I mean, no question. Now, look, ratings aren't the best guideline anymore because so many people have cut the cord, right? So you've got most of your younger fans who don't get cable, right? And that's a challenge for us, and the NFL has an advantage there. But nobody dominates social media like the NBA. And that's why I think we're really on the upswing for the reasons I mentioned. I mean, you got guys coming into the league like Luka and Zion who have millions of followers online, right? They already have that connection. Whereas, even Joe Burrows, right? It's like, you don't know him by sight. The number one pick, the number one quarterback coming out, right? You don't know him, and he doesn't have that presence that our athletes do, and that gives us a huge advantage.
There's been rumors that you've tried to buy teams in other sports. I'm from Pittsburgh, just like you. Shout out Mount Lebanon.
What part of Pittsburgh are you from?
Plum
Borough, baby.
Yeah, let's go. You're 100% right. But I'm from Plum. Was a Pirate fan, kind of. But there's always been rumors that you have tried.
What's a Pirate fan? Always a Pirate fan, no matter how painful or brutal.
Mark, they stink, and the ownership does not try to win. And there's always been rumors that you have tried to buy that team. Are those true? And would you ever venture into owning other teams?
Like right after I tried to after I bought the Mavs, I looked at the Pirates, and they just don't want to sell. And look, I get that, right? Up until the pandemic hit, they were crushing it financially. And like what I would tell people back home, I'm like, look, if I offered you a job where I paid you $25 million a year and you stood in the middle of Market Square, or you stood in Point Park in downtown Pittsburgh, and the whole city just yelled at you all day, every day, would you take that $25 million a year job?
I think so. Yeah.
Comes down to. And so, look, at least we broke that non-playoff run, right? We got to the playoffs. They've gotten a little smarter about it. I'm not as down on them, for not spending the money that people want them to, because I think they're doing some smart things in development. They've got, some facilities in Puerto Rico and stuff. But look, I get frustrated like everybody. I want to win.
So would you want to ever buy another sports team? You said you were interested in potentially the Pirates, or does this have to be something that's emotionally...
Those days are gone, man. That's when, like, before I had kids. So the Pirates were like before I was married. That was different, right? And now I have kids. They're 10, 13, and 16. And, being gone, being involved for 82 games plus playoffs in the NBA, now it didn't seem like a lot before. Now it is a lot just because of the kids. Maybe after they're older and have, left the house, I'll look at it again, but not right now.
Okay, so we've all seen you on Shark Tank. You're the star of that show.
Friday night. Hey, baby.
You're damn right. I feel like I've watched every single episode, and watching your brain get showcased is something that you've mentioned before. You've said, hey, I feel like the American people have seen me at work. They trust my business acumen. Whenever you were pitched to be on Shark Tank, was your immediate thought like, okay, so I don't have to go out and find these companies anymore? These companies are just coming to me. This is the greatest show of all time.
No, it was the exact opposite. I'm like, okay. This show was bounced around. Like one day it's on Tuesday night, the next day it's on Friday nights, the next day it's a one-night replacement for Desperate Housewives on ABC. This is a business show. These guys are weak that are on this show, right? So I'm going to go on there as a guest, and I'm just going to crush them. The show's probably not going to last, and so I'm just going to raise hell. So I literally went on there as a guest shark for 3 episodes, the second season, just trying to raise hell and just mess with everybody. And then, we got lucky, and the show started to take off, and now, we just finished season 11, and hopefully we'll be back in August or September to start shooting season 12. But yeah, I didn't think it was ever going to last.
I've been in a few negotiations now because I'm a business owner here, and I've had to talk about a lot of things, and all of my knowledge, all of it comes from Shark Tank. So I appreciate that a lot. It's literally the depiction of the American dream. It is a beautiful show, and I can't thank you enough for that. Now, you have followed in similar footsteps now, and I'm not going to say you're the same person or anything like that, but there's been conversations about you potentially being president. You're on a show showcasing your business acumen, right? And now you're a guy that a lot of people trust. I mean, this entire office trusts you. Whenever Mark Cuban says something, we're like, okay, we know if Mark Cuban says it, it's probably going to be accurate. That presidential run is something that I assume you get asked about every single day. And with what your answer was for the Pirates, your kids are going to have to get older. Is that something you ever see yourself doing, though?
Maybe. It's not like my dream is to be president. It is not, man. Let me just tell you, I'd rather be playing hoops and just getting shots up and just chilling with the kids or my friends or whatever. But it's just such a cluster, right? It's just all messed up right now. And, especially now, it's just like here we are in the middle of this pandemic, and we have to figure out who do we trust with our lives, right? What information do we believe? And you want that coming out of the White House. So on one hand, it's like, damn, we need something, and I think for the reason you mentioned, I think I can be that person, but I asked my family about it and they just voted it down. So it's not going to happen this time around. Even I always say I keep my doors open because I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I'll never say never, and that's true, but I just don't see it happening. Maybe 2024, when my kids are a little older, we'll see. So
right now you are involved in the committee that the government has assigned to reopen the sports world. And I saw you tweeting that if you didn't get your PPP and you're a small business, there's still $100 billion left. So you're kind of getting into the policy.
Oh, I'm hearing the yinzer come out. I hear that little yinzer.
Hey, go on down to the website. Okay, get up. But are you enjoying this time where your decisions are not only affecting your basketball team or your businesses, but your decisions, your input, your opinions are now directly affecting a lot of people's lives, and your Twitter and your tweets are affected. Are you enjoying that, or is that too much?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it if I thought it was too much, man. I mean, I'm an American citizen. I want to help wherever I can, man, especially now when things are such a mess. Anytime I can help small businesses in particular, I'm going to do what I can. I'm an investor in 200-some businesses, and I'm helping them all I can. And, taking some of that knowledge, what I've learned on Shark Tank, and trying to help, you know what it's like. You're an entrepreneur, right? You know the strain, you know the stress, and now add all this to it, and waking up not knowing if you're even allowed to open, let alone being able to sell anything. And then when you are able to sell, you don't know if anybody's going to show up, so you don't know how many people you should put back on the payroll. You don't know which government programs make sense or don't make sense. All that stuff. And so, where I can help, I want to help.
Okay, so I feel like you have done a great job with your employees. You came out early and said you're going to pay all your arena employees. Zion was coming out saying he was going to do it. Everybody was helping. But it feels like you have really taken care of your employees. We try to do the exact same thing here. There's a lot of businesses, though. Yeah, thank you. All the boys actually are. All the boys are about to get a big raise, by the way. Pretty good news.
Yeah, boys.
That's what we're here for. But it feels like a lot of companies were not fiscally responsible with their money. They were running, their burn rate was too much. And then now you got 37 million people unemployed at this point. I mean, there's a lot of gloom and doom in a lot of Americans' minds coming out of this quarantine, this post-quarantine. What would your message be to them about the American business, the American spirit, and what could potentially happen to the economy afterwards?
You know what? I'm a capitalist through and through, but, for small businesses, any business, man, you got to be agile. Things are changing. You can't expect it's going to be the way it was. You've got to recognize that more people are going to be working from home. People are afraid to go into group situations. We're going to have to reinvent until we get a vaccine. Businesses like the Mavs are going to have to reinvent how we do business. Broadcasting games without fans. When we can have fans, how are we going to do it so it's safe and people have confidence? And then, on a bigger picture, with 37, 38 million people unemployed now, man, the government's got to do something, right? Historically, like in 2008, 2009, we did the trickle down thing and it worked. Not great, but it worked. Now we got to do the trickle up thing, right? You don't just all of a sudden say, just let, the American way, entrepreneurs start 38 million, create 38 million jobs that we're going to create over the next 3 years. Because that's never going to happen, right? The most jobs that have been created in the last 4 years is like 312,000 in a month. So you extrapolate that out, it's going to take forever. So I think we're going to have the government get involved. As much as that bothers me, it's the right thing to do. Creating jobs that do tracking and tracing and testing and, elderly care, helping out people who can't take care of themselves and are, at risk of the virus. And so those are millions of jobs that we need to create as a government. So those two things together, the government help, reduce unemployment, and entrepreneurs doing their thing, coming up with new ways to create jobs, creating new opportunities, recognizing that business is going to change and creating great new companies that we never knew would exist. I mean, those two things together get us out of this mess.
Let's go! Hey, you need to do it in 4 years. I know your kids probably aren't going to be happy about it. You need to do it in 4 years. So let's talk about something you are directly involved with. And you mentioned it there about arenas and stadiums without fans. The Ohio State athletic director, Gene Smith, just came out and said for his 105,000 seat stadium, they figured out a way to put 22,000 to 50,000 people in it with guidelines that I assume that you and the committee have put in there. What are the guidelines? What are the steps? And can anybody be certain about anything at this point?
So first, no one can be certain about anything right now, man. That's the scary part, right? We don't know, no one. It's like this thing changes every day, and we learn something new every day. So you have to build that in. But in terms of how do you fit as the most amount of people, kind of the way we're looking at it, and this is all just planning and evaluating. It's not anything written in stone. People live in little quarantine groups, right? You live with your family or you've got your roommates. We're going to try to get those groups together and allow them to come into the arena together. And so once we can confirm that the McAfee family or the Cuban family, and there's 5 of them, or you might have 12 roommates living in a house, right? Those 12 people who are already quarantined together, once we can confirm those groups, then we can sit them as a group in the stadiums or arenas and then, create space, social distance around them. And then if the testing gets real good, and we're still unsure about the testing, and that's part of the problem. But then when the testing gets real good, then we can start saying, okay, the McAfee and the Cuban family, you guys are close. Why don't you let us quarantine you together? We'll pick you up on a bus, bring you to the game. And now we got 30 people that we have in a group, and we do social distancing around them. And then those groups, once we get more confident in the testing, we can put bigger and bigger groups. And then if the testing gets good enough, you can test at a game, and it's all going to be voluntary, right? And that's the thing I think people get afraid of. Nowhere, you can't force people to get tracked and traced. No, people aren't going to do that in this country. They got to volunteer and opt in. You can't force people to get tested because people are afraid that the government's going to keep that stuff, right? Yeah. And so it's got to be something where it's voluntary, opt in. And once you allow that, then you can start growing the groups that go into the arenas and stadiums.
That committee you're on with other general managers, and I think Vince McMahon's on there, Dana White's on there, you're on there. Is that a conference? Are you guys Zooming, Microsoft Teams? How many alphas can be on one phone call and get something done?
It was interesting, me coming on and Dana coming on, and then you had like the get-alongs, the commissioners of all the different professional sports leagues that are politically correct, so it was interesting, but we've only had one call.
When was it? How long was the call?
It was right when all this went down, and they created the committee, whenever that was, and it was maybe a 30-minute call. That's it.
Who was guiding it? Who was running the call?
Trump was. The president was.
Have you had any conversation with the president since then?
No, not since then. But I give him credit, man. He assigned somebody in the White House to be my liaison, and so we go back and forth all the time. And it's a good dude that does it. I don't want to put him on blast because he'll get all kinds of crap in the White House. But we talk almost every day, either via email, text, or phone. And I give him my ideas, and they tell me while I'm wrong, but at least I keep on cranking them out. And at least they tell me.
Mark, the rumor that Disney World is the front runner for the NBA to come back, is there a reason why that is the front runner over, say, Vegas, or they even throughout the Bahamas or something like that?
It's a great reason. One, it's a good spot. Two, Disney is our biggest effing partner. Of course we're going to partner with them, right? ABC, ESPN, they're a partner, and we're going to do everything we can to take care of our partners.
And will that be, you said Hotel California, all guys will come in there. Their families will come or no? And you're only expecting this to be a couple weeks?
I mean, there's a capacity, the more people you add, the more risk you add as well. And then there's capacity issues. So I don't have an answer for you there.
Okay. AJ Hawk, who I host a show in the afternoon with, he wanted me to ask you a question. If you were Robert Kraft, Tom Brady goes up for a free agency here, would you have stepped in and made sure Tom Brady never leaves your franchise and goes elsewhere? Or is that something you got to keep?
Tom, it'd be between me and Tom, right? I'm sure they sat down and talked it out, right? As long as they had a conversation and you were straight up and honest, right? Because sometimes you know how players are, right? Every guy thinks they're 45 years old, and if I could just do something to get over this little knee issue, then I'll be back to running 4.340s again, and so. If they talked it out and everybody was understood and they were honest about it, then whatever they came to was cool, right? With us, with Dirk knew he was kind of on the decline, and we knew it, but we wanted to send a message because there was no way for us to put a championship team around him. And it's not like in the NBA, you can just go and sign a championship team and say, sorry, Dirk, you'll be the 15th man, but we're signing all these dudes. No, I wanted to keep them in. I couldn't win a championship with them the way things were structured. So, we just got on the same page and got it right. And as long as Kraft and Brady did the same thing, you just got to live with the results.
As somebody who, I like the NBA, but I don't know the ins and outs enough to really know this answer. So this might be a dumb question, but now that we're getting into the super team era is how they're describing it. Now, granted, you're putting together some young studs and things of that nature, but do you try to get into those sweepstakes? Like when Kawhi was up, Paul George was up, LeBron was up. Are you trying to pitch as much as you can?
It's just like when you're single and you see a hot girl or a hot guy and you just go, hey. It's the same thing. Yeah, you throw it out there, even though the odds are slim.
Is that because Dallas, or why is that? Because they're thinking about LA, or is it because the setup?
Just because of circumstances or money. It's, guys sometimes have their mindset on where they want to go or who they want to play with, but you just never know. I mean, we've signed guys that we didn't expect to sign, and we've lost guys that we thought we would sign.
I can't thank you enough for joining us here 20 minutes into this thing. I have no idea if you had a hard out or not, but I have to get a Shark Tank question in or two. Do you guys get along, you and the rest of the Sharks, or do you hate some of them?
No, we get along. I mean, there's times when I hate them. It's just like, you work with somebody 12 hours a day. When you're shooting, you get annoyed with anybody, right? Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, he's not so wonderful. He's a dick, but I still like him. And I'm sure I annoy the hell out of them too, but I don't care.
Whenever somebody comes in to pitch their company, do you get a feeling that they want to work with you? Because there was one the other night, I guess, where this guy was pitching. I forget what the business was, and it was probably pre-taped or whatever from back ago. He was talking to you and he was talking, I think I forget who it was. He was looking over everybody. Do you get a feeling like when people walk in, like, okay, this company wants me to be a partner with them? Like Gronk, for instance, when Gronk came in there, they wanted to be a partner with you and A-Rod. Like, that's who they wanted. Do you get that feeling from companies, and then you know that whenever you make the offer to them?
Every single one that walks in the door, I get that feeling.
That's awesome. That is
Unless it's like a thing for kids, little babies, I'm not into that. Or if it's like a really retail product, then it's going to go to Lori because of QVC and stuff like that. But everybody else, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's mine for the taking.
You put a shot clock on some of these people when they have to make the biggest decision of their life. They just start sweating. Is that just for your own enjoyment, or is it like, hey, you want to work with me or not? Let's move forward.
A little bit of both, right? Because it's hard for them, right? And sometimes when people start vacillating back and forth, and you can tell, but they're afraid they're going to lose something, like, and get buyer's remorse, or they're worried there might be a little bit better offer. It's like, look, either you want to work with me or you don't. And so, on one hand, I just want to get it over with. And the other hand, it makes for good TV too. It is a TV show.
They start sweating. Dude Wipes has been quite a success story for you. And that was early in this entire thing. What are some of the things they do behind the tank and all that stuff? What are a couple companies that you've invested in that have had success that you're like, damn, I did not expect them to go the way they've gone?
There was a company called Cycloramic. So what Cycloramic did was, it was an app that you put on your iPhone 5. This was 5 years, 6 years back. And the iPhone 5 had a flat bottom, right? So you could just stand it up straight, and it would use the sensors in it to make it turn and create a panoramic picture. Well, we sold a boatload of the app at like $1 each, and that got us our money back. But then the iPhone changed the way they look, right? And it's changed every year. So I thought, okay, these guys are toast. But to the guy's credit, the CEO, they pivoted to get into the car business, where they used that same technology, and they went to car companies that sold cars online and said, okay, now you can take a panoramic look of the car. Exactly right. And then 2 years ago, they sold it to Carvana for a boatload of money. And that Carvana stock has gone up from like 20 to 90. So that turned it in from a $20 million deal to like an enormous damn deal.
Put the number on it. Put the number on it. What was the number?
I think now it's worth like, my part is worth like 20 million.
Good for you. Mark, I can't thank you enough. When you run for president, we can't wait to help you win. You're a legend, man. A Yinzer legend. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Hey, and we're not done trying to buy the Dirty O, man. Did you ever go to the Dirty O when you were?
Yeah, in Oakland. Absolutely. You're going to put that thing back?
So they closed, right?
Yeah.
And go out there trying to figure out a way to buy it. It's not over yet for all those Pittsburghers out there.
Oh, you're going to go save it. You're going to be like a Pittsburgh little hero here.
I'm trying. It's a long shot. They're making it hard, bro. They're making it hard. It's closed. It's easy. Just sell me this stuff. And they're like, yeah, they're over negotiating. So we'll see what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Cuban.
You guys are the best, man. But now, Pat, after seeing you, I got to go lift.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've been in the middle of a little bodybuilder run here because I'm trying to not be as fat. I like sandwiches. We're from Pittsburgh. I like to eat, so it's a problem.
Primanti's, baby. Primanti's.
Hey, you're damn right. And obviously, the first move to do whenever you have Mark Cuban on the show is pitch a company. So if you would like to own a little bit of PMI, 10 million, 10%. Let's move forward. You saw the Rogan deal. You saw the Barstool deal. You saw the Simmons deal.
What did you say? The connection's bad. I can't.
Hey, don't worry. With our investment, we'll be able to fix your tech. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Cuban. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome.
Hey, guys. Thank you.
See you, Mark. You're the best.
Legend.
The fuck are we doing? We got Mark Cuban on the show?
Hey, you did well, man.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good about it. I
got it all in.
I felt pretty good. I think we got everything in. Presidents, right? Oh, aliens.
Yeah, he would have.
Next time he comes on.
Next time.
Next time he comes on.